You are listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
This network is supported by our listeners. You can become a supporting member by going to arcpodnet.com/members and signing up. As a supporting member, you have access to high-quality downloads of each show and a discount at our future online store and access to show hosts on a members-only Slack team. For professional members, we'll have training shows and other special content offered throughout the year. Once again, go to arcpodnet.com/members to support the network and get some great extras and swag in the process. That's arcpodnet.com/members.
Hello and welcome to the Archaeotech Podcast, episode 59. I'm your host, Chris Webster. On today's show, I talked to Acacia Berry, founder and creator of Archaeological Analytics, about what they do and how they do it. Let's get to it. All right, welcome to the Archaeotech Podcast. As I said in the introduction, I'm interviewing Acacia Berry, founder and creator of Archaeological Analytics today. Now, possibly before you listen to this episode, or maybe after you listen to this episode, go take a listen to the CRM Archaeology Podcast, episode 117. We talked about this for an hour, and we talked about some slightly different things, a little more philosophical, I might say, a little more on the, the CRM business end. And this, we're going to try to focus towards a little more the technical end of what Archaeo Analytics is doing and how they're doing it. So, Acacia, welcome back to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So why don't you, just in case people haven't heard the other episode, why don't you go ahead and give us a little introduction about yourself, and then we'll talk about Archaeo Analytics.
Okay, so I started my career as a Mayanist in undergrad and in grad school. Then I left grad school and wanted to focus more on methodology, which led me to doing a lot of work in material analysis. And I did most of my material analysis work and teaching in New York City, a lot of it at the Museum of Natural History, and then a little bit for a few CRM firms and the Museum of the City of New York for Landmarks Preservation Commission's digital database. They have a brand, it's about a year or 2 years old now. And from there, I just within those last 6 or 7 years, I started noticing that it was very difficult to do research on the web, and not just, general websites, but looking for solid visual resources for either identifying artifacts or learning about the history of artifacts or production, and industrial production, anything related to material culture analysis. So I decided to create a platform, which ended up being 3 platforms for archaeologists to not only have a safe, vetted place to find legit, professional, legally excavated research, but also to contribute the research that they have done. As of current, there are very few outlets for archaeologists to talk about artifacts, which is, technically our area of expertise. CRM has their reporting, but that kind of disappears in SHPO's files. Universities, they have their field schools, and that also kind of disappears in who knows is, various files and file cabinets. Institutions have collections that, no one ever gets to see, because we always hear that most museums and institutions only show about 3% of their collection. Meanwhile, a lot of it is behind the scenes, some of it organized, some of it cataloged in terms of identifying it, but most of the time not. So this is something that I thought was important and could help us with our own work, and also put us out there on the web as a to give us full authorship of anything that had to do with artifacts, archaeology in states, archaeology in Canada, so that anyone, whether it's students, researchers, enthusiasts, can, find our work easy easily on Google, easily on social media, and use it to support our industry. So yeah, that's how everything happened.
Okay.
And I ended up building Archaeological Analytics, and then creating 2 platforms from Archaeological Analytics to deal with a lot of those issues, professional outreach as well as public outreach, but all dealing with artifacts, all dealing with imagery, all dealing with creating a web resource for archaeologists.
So we'll have links to all this stuff in the show notes, of course. But in just like, so you've got the 3 total platforms, actually, like you said. So we can talk about these. I want to hear your elevator pitch on these. So give the title of one, and then maybe 1 or 2 sentences on what it's about, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, no problem. Archaeological Analytics is the home base for everything. The purpose for Archaeological Analytics is to find every archaeologist in North America that is active on the web. And it's also trying to figure out how to encourage more archaeologists to be active on the web. Open Artifact is a professional publishing platform for archaeologists to promote, share, and publish their work in anything dealing with material culture. We accept images, we accept people's reports, articles, anything written about identifying material culture. We have forums for archaeologists to help other archaeologists identify things. Everything about material culture is for professionals to identify or search for artifacts is on Open Artifacts. And then American Artifacts is a public outreach platform. And that one supports the archaeologists that I mentioned previously that are active on the web. If you are posting on social media or on blogs or have a website that you update regularly, we try to repost any of those blog posts, images, Twitter, anything that's related to artifacts, we try to repost that so that the public, which is a very large public on social media, can see what archaeologists are doing on a daily basis. So this summer was a great summer for us because obviously, everyone's in the field and people are posting amazing photos of their artifacts. And we hope that people continue posting amazing photos of their artifacts during the lab season, basically.
Okay.
This is also a platform for archaeologists to promote any kind of event or fundraising venture where they would need public attention or public support. So it has various branches to it, but yeah,
right.
it's just a fun website.
Okay.
Cool artifacts.
Nice. All right, so let's go back over those real quick. So Archaeo Analytics, all active archaeologists on the web. Now, do you spend a certain amount of time of your day on like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all these things and find people? And then, because I saw that you do have a grid, like a resource, so you can, look up somebody or a company and then find all the platforms that they're on. How are you curating that? Doing it the hard way? Just basically getting all the information?
Your presence on social media depends on how often you are posting.
For sure.
A lot of times. And so the first wave of contacts that we found were fairly easy because it's about 100, and the same 100 people or the same 100 institutions kind of follow each other. So it was pretty easy to do the first 100, 150 accounts, across the board. Then, a lot of what we post on American comes from, our interaction with the initial 100 or so that are on social media. So sometimes posting all these different artifacts and photos and stuff like that from social media draws the attention of other archaeologists that, weren't maybe as active, or weren't hashtagging or whatever. And so they pop up. But then we also do it the hard way, which is, Google searching, RPAs, just trying to find everybody who may be on the web in any form, whether it's social media or blogging or their websites. While we're doing that, we're checking to see, we're actually looking for any kind of trends in the way archaeologists are using the web. So
Okay.
there's a lot of people who have websites, but how often are they updating them? What do they look like? If you look on their website, can you find information such as an email address to contact them? Can you find information like all of their social accounts? Sometimes they just have their Facebook. Meanwhile, there's an Instagram, but it's not linked. That kind of stuff. If we're looking at blogs, there are several instances where a state is extremely organized in terms of how they manage their archaeology. So there'll be multiple stations or multiple branches. And so is each branch contributing to their own blog, or are they contributing to one blog? A lot of times you'll have one website for the entire state, but each branch has their own blog. So that's complicated and that's interesting. And still, once again, on the blogs, are they posting something simple as an email address to contact them? Do each one of these blogs have their own social media? Oftentimes they do. Each branch within a state archaeology will sometimes have their own regional social media accounts, and some won't. So just from doing those, this initial research, you see how fragmented everything is, and not everyone is on the same page. And I think one of the reasons why people aren't on the same page is there's a lack of understanding as to how the internet works, and how important, having an updated website or having an updated blog, or, having certain social media accounts are to to what we need to do in this field. So it's interesting, but yeah, we're slowly gathering this information, and Archaeo Analytics is trying to create not necessarily how-to guides, but little tips and suggestions to improve your web presence in any format. If you only want to do a website, that's no problem. But here are ways to get more business by simply putting an email address in a very visible place. Something simple as that. If you want people to like your comments more, or like your images more, or like your social media post, something as simple as, use Facebook Live, or use an image, or use a video, any little thing like that can help you, for the people that are very active about it, or, are into it, then that's what we were trying to provide. For those who are not into it, for those who are very overwhelmed by, all the tech talk, whether it's building a website or managing a website, or updating social media, or even being on social media, this is where the other two platforms come into play. Open Artifact is literally designed as an alternative to building your own database or website featuring the work that you have done, especially when it comes to material culture. American Artifacts is specifically designed for you to post any kind of update that you're, whether it's updates from the field or updates in the lab, any kind of work that you're doing currently, without having to, be involved in social media directly. So we're trying to accommodate as many different learning curves as there are, and it's really obvious that there's some serious learning curves about these various things happening on the web. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
can people contact you to either update their information on your spreadsheet? Because I'm sure once you get people on there, it's really difficult, if not impossible, to go just back and double check every so often, make sure it's all still current. But if people are aware that you're tracking this information, can they contact you and update it? Or if they want to get on there and they're not, can they just send you all their data?
So if we have found you, then we send you an email letting you know that we have found you, which is, I guess, kind of creepy, but, we found you and that we've added you to this amazing resource. And the resource itself on Archaeological Analytics will eventually improve so that, you can search for archaeologists by state, by institution type, and, such and so forth. But for right now, we let people know that they're on the list, and then we ask them to add or edit any information that, was not available on whatever format we found them on. Hint, hint, which should be, a little, hey, we don't know what your social media accounts are. That's not good. You know what I mean? Like, that's a problem. Or, hey, you weren't clear about which email address people can use to contact or whatever. Hopefully this will help them realize that having that kind of information available, whether it's on your Facebook About page, yeah. A lot of people leave that one out, or nice. What you're linking on Instagram, in your social, in your profile on Instagram. Some people link weird stuff, that won't connect to how you can get in contact with them. So little things like that. We try to be extremely interactive with everyone that we actually do find. Okay. And more emails and interactions and stuff like that will be coming out, pretty regularly from now on. So.
Right. Okay. Well, cool. We're about 2 minutes from a break, but I think we're just going to go ahead and take it now, so we can have a little longer next segment and not be interrupted. And we'll get into Open Artifact, the one I think that this audience will be incredibly interested in. So I want to spend some more time on it. So we'll be back in 30 seconds. Take a listen to this ad, and we'll be back in just a minute. This episode of the CRM Archaeology Podcast is made possible by Codify Incorporated. Codify is a California benefit corporation that can help you with your digital archaeological needs. Visit codify.com today to find out how Codify can help you go paperless in 2017. That's www.codify.com. Now back to the show. Okay, we're back. And all right, so we've talked about archaeological analytics and the social media platforms and things like that. And a little bit about American artifacts, but I think we'll get probably more into that later. But what I want to spend some time on, as I mentioned before the break, was Open Artifact. Now, I guess first let's talk about how somebody gets into Open Artifact and what they're going to use it for. Why does somebody need Open Artifact? And I think actually before that, I want to ask another question. Was your original intent for this? Because I know you've worked on the academic side, you've worked in CRM. Was your honest original intent for this geared more towards the academic side or more towards the CRM side, or kind of whoever, as long as they're doing archaeology? What was your original thought for that?
Both, because we have the same problem.
Right.
There will be an artifact that you won't know, you won't be able to identify, period. We are only trained to know a very, very tiny portion about a very, very specific subject, right? Whether it's, shell-tempered pottery, in the middle woodland, we can really dive in. And so if you find anything outside of that, then what do you do? And that's really what was the crux of everything. If you find something outside of what you know, then what do you do? Even if you've been in the field for years, there will always be something that you will not be able to identify. And that's okay. But I am for sure that there is someone else, maybe within our city, maybe within our state, maybe within the country, that may be able to help. And so Open Artifact was created to be a network of experts. The experts that we already are. It's just on a larger scale, right? Every city, I can't even do state, but every city, for the most part, has their own little, community that they interact with, professionally. And, that kind of expands a little bit when you go to conferences, but, we're not talking about daily work at conferences. We're not talking about, hey, yeah, I was going through the collections and such, we're not having those conversations. So this is a way to have those conversations and get quick answers from each other. And I was also thinking about students. I was thinking about volunteers that we heavily rely on to do a lot of the quick processing of artifacts, right? And they are also dealing with the same issue of there's going to be something that won't fit into whatever categories that we've created for that quick processing. There's always going to be something. And so there needed to be a central place that handled every type of artifact, every type of material, every type of typology, at least within one country, well, two, because Canada. And Canada, and the reason why I picked Canada and the US as our focal point is because obviously we have very similar histories in comparison to Mexico. Mexico has its own, and I obviously used to work in Mexico, so I know it has its own world that is a lot, actually, especially in the prehistoric part, very, very different than Native American, North U.S. Native American and Canadian Native American material culture. So we may eventually include Mexico, but that would be its own big branch. Obviously, there will be a lot of Mayan stuff and a lot of Aztec stuff, and I didn't want that to what's the word?
Like dominant?
Dominate the database, because those are the most popular topics, right? If you're going to talk about archaeology in North America, 9 times out of 10 is going to be about Aztecs and Mayans, and maybe some early Paleo-Indian material culture. But for the most part, no one really focuses on colonial and post-colonial material and prehistoric material that's not points. So this is right. This is true.
Yeah.
So this was a way for everyone to post any kind of artifact, whether it was popular or not. And this was a way to connect with people who may have studied any kind of artifact, whether it was popular or not. If you studied something as for your dissertation or for your thesis, this is your time to shine. If you have have an amazing diagnostic collection of stemware, this is your time to shine. Because right now everyone talks about plates, or what's another big one? Plates, bottles, those are big. Very few people focus on bricks. If you are an expert in bricks, this is your time to shine. This is also the other thing I was thinking about was our issues with maker's marks. This is one of the most important ways, or one of the preferred ways to date historic artifacts. And maker's mark research is almost non-existent when it comes to the way we research, or a lot of the literature that comes out of material culture analysis. And if someone has actually written about maker's marks, it's almost impossible to find those those articles, or connecting those articles together with the actual material. So once again, this is a central place for anyone who's ever written or studied anything about material culture, and this will help ourselves as professionals. This will help students. This is a great educational tool to help students. This is a great educational tool, or even just a public outreach tool to connect with the public, because people love to find stuff that was excavated or built or created in their state. They love it. So, and just from the buzz that we get from American artifacts, people love looking for any kind of connection they can have with their immediate area. So so I was trying to cover as many different aspects as I could, just by using an image, image of an artifact, and people's expertise in it.
So let me talk about this for a second, because I was thinking of a couple things related to this. So first off, I like the thought that, this is like a central location, because some of these resources, I mean, there's resources on the web for all these different things, but we have to search 75 different things to find all the information, and having it in one spot, I totally understand.
People are only experts in a very specific thing, right? So they can't really have a central website, because they don't know everything. That's why DAX is DAX. DAX is only, the southern East Coast slavery sites, not even all colonial sites, just the ones with slaves. So, what do you do if it's outside of that bracket? Your stuff just doesn't get seen, so, and that's great for DAX, but, your stuff, your work should not be seen. And so Open Artifact is a way for everyone's work to be seen and shared.
So I guess one of the big questions that a lot of people are probably going to ask, if they haven't been already on like Facebook and things like that, is how, if throughout that introduction into Open Artifact, you kept saying it helped us, it's a place for us as archaeologists to help each other and do these things. So how do you make sure, or does it matter? Do you care if there's just professional archaeologists in this group? How do you keep out people that aren't professional archaeologists that just want to pay for access and then, get their own artifacts ID'd so they can go sell them on eBay? Or do we think that that's not, I don't know, as big of a problem as we think it is?
Well, so there's multiple things happening here. And I wanted to make sure that I'm not just focusing on the professional, I'm also focusing on the researcher and the student, because we have a lot of people, archaeologists can be in various types of institutions. And I am trying to create a space for professionals to showcase their work, but to as many people as possible. If you are a student, like I said, this is a great way to just, even if you're just taking a class, this is a great way to, find quick and reliable research about material culture. Even if you're just doing a Google search as an enthusiast, or, even if, God forbid, you are collecting, we don't offer information. Our bread and butter is, or our expertise is dating things and identifying cultural significance or cultural context if it's within a site. So I'm not sure how you're able to get a value from that. Right. But okay, I guess the date, but still, it has to, even if it's a piece of ceramic that's, the tiniest piece, that's not worth anything. You would need like a full plate, you know what I mean? Like a full intact plate, I guess, for it to sell necessarily. So anyone using our information to, I don't even see the connection of how our information in terms of context can be used, in a bad way.
Okay.
If you're selling things, you guys create that value. The looters create value, numerical value on things. Collectors create numerical value on things. What I was trying to address is the ranking of those sites, the sites that do feature collected items, the sites that do feature looted items. Unfortunately, those sites, in some cases, include not cultural context, but maybe historical context. And it's very small, but sometimes they'll, give you a little tidbit about what a maker's mark might actually mean or something like that. However, there's no way of you citing it. There's no citation as to where they got that information from. There's no way for you to cite that particular website. And these are the dominant websites on the web. And so my problem I have a problem with that. If we are actually the experts in analyzing and interpreting material culture, we should have those our websites should be the popular websites.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're
absolutely.
being used as references. And the secret is that most archaeologists are doing quick Google searches, and that's where they're getting their information from. And if you start looking at, conference posters and, little things like that, you can tell that they got their information from the web, specifically from those dicey websites, and only because they rank so high on Google. So when you type in 19th century even something as simple as 19th century ceramics,
mm-hmm.
probably the first page won't be anything connected to any kind of professional archaeologist or a collection in an institution. That's a problem. So Open Artifact, that's one of our biggest goals, is to, let's bring everybody's stuff together and outrank everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the more content you have, the more in terms of the quality of information and the format in terms of images, the better your rank on Google searches. And I want our stuff as archaeologists, as professional archaeologists, as legally excavating, professionals. I want our stuff to be first because it should be. And there was a post I put out at one point that talked about NASA. And I always joke, even in terms of like what doctors would do. Oftentimes I see archaeologists on social media post objects that they cannot identify and say, hey, does anyone know what this is? Now, P.S., like I said, most of their followers are other archaeologists, but a lot of them aren't.
Right.
And some of the people commenting probably are not archaeologists. They're probably enthusiasts who know a lot about the history of beads, whatever.
Yeah.
But I always joke and I said, do you ever see a doctor hold up an X-ray and say, hey guys, does anyone know what this is on social media? Absolutely not. Because that's not what professionals do. Professionals go to other professionals because we're all on the same page in terms of the quality in our work and, in this case, legality. So I want that to change as well. I want us, that's why I said Open Artifact is for ourselves first and foremost. We should be contacting ourselves. Now, the cool thing about Open Artifact is, you have your initial group that you are aware of in your city or state, but now you get to open it up to other cities and states, of other experts. So those are the things that I would like to see change, that will eventually affect the quality of our work, and the survival of cultural heritage in general. We need to take it as seriously as NASA does, about their work. And they also don't go to the social, to social media and ask people like, hey, anybody know what the star is? Anybody know? They don't do that. They contact each other. So, we should be doing that same thing too. We should have the same standards.
Yeah, and it would be nice, again, the whole idea behind this is central location, because some of us do that on Facebook, some of us do that on, the closed archaeology groups on Facebook. Well, yeah, I know. Yeah. I've done it on Instagram, for Christ's sake. It's completely open. But I mean, I just gave a talk at a public forum last night about how archaeologists should stop glorifying artifacts individually and start talking about the context that the artifacts are based in, and one of the ways to do that is to stop posting images of just artifacts on like Instagram or something like that, to either identify them or just to say, look at the pretty thing, but give a story behind it. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But
and American Artifacts, like, we actually search for those particular kind of posts that actually, archaeologists have added a little bit of extra content to, that I, would think is interesting for people to see. I usually avoid posting, or I try to avoid posting, unless it's a really cool picture, artistically cool. I try to avoid posting photos on the blog that, are just like, look at this bottle. I try to avoid that. Instagram, however, that one's purely for, visual pleasure. It's a cool photo, and there you go. But yeah, that's another thing. But a lot of times, the reason why they're not posting, or the reason why they're not adding information to it, is because they don't know. They don't know.
Nice.
And let's be honest, like, we don't know, and it's okay. But there's someone out there that does know, and that's like I said, that's what Open Artifact is for.
Right. Okay. Well, let's and just so our listeners know, we're going to go a little long on this segment because the app of the day segment, there's just me, so I don't need the full 20 minutes. So we go a little longer on this one because I got some other questions. So since Open Artifact is obviously heavily image based, what are, and if you want to hear more about like the subscription levels and what's involved with them, go listen to the CRM Archaeology podcast or check out some of the links in the show notes. I don't want to dive too much into that, because I want to get into the other side of it. Since it's heavily image based, do you have, I guess, upload standards? Are there size and resolution and format standards for these images to go up, so they can meet some kind of uniformity, or is it up to the individual?
Well, the biggest standard that we have is that it has to be a single shot of a single artifact, because you can't really see anything if it's 12 pipes in one shot. I'm trying to get people to take a really nice macro, or just a regular shot, something that people can actually see some of the details of the artifact. So there's that. There are also the size of the images and the file format, but to me those are minor. A lot of right now, the way we have everything set up is that you send us, after you pay for a certain level of subscription, you send us, a bulk file of all your images and a nice, clean Excel sheet of, linking the images with, specific information. And we will work with you if there's, things that are a little bit off. But I try to make this as easy as possible. In terms of, anyone can take a single shot with either their phone camera or their, or a nicer camera, as long as the background is pretty, is either black or white and it's well lit. So that, I didn't want people to freak out about, it had to be, HD or anything like that. And most cameras right now, like I said, whether it's your phone or tablet or actual camera, most cameras are pretty up to standard when it comes to pixels. So, I don't think we'll have too many problems with that. However, if there is, we'll contact you, personally and say, hey, you have something, other than this image, or can you retake it or something like that. Okay. The other thing that we're trying to encourage, but only a few archaeologists are doing this right now, are uploading 3D models. And we're specifically using 3D models for our artifact guides. One of the features of Open Artifact, aside from the galleries of images and the forum, if you have questions to ask other archaeologists, are the artifact guides. The artifact guides are basically little quick guides to feature diagnostic, or to show you diagnostic features of commonly excavated artifacts. And I think the best way of doing that is seeing an artifact in its entirety, i.e. in 3D. And so those, the few people that are doing them, I'm trying to reach out to them and use those and annotate them, link them to regular 2D images, so that people can, easily identify and date their artifacts. Right. Whether it's a nail or, or a English pipe or a, whatever. So, yeah. So it's, like I said, the 3D thing is people are slowly getting into it, but also because it's extremely costly, and it requires a lot of, background knowledge in working with the software and a bunch of other things. So the just the regular image, I think, can appeal to most people, because most people take regular images of their artifacts, whether it's for a report or for their website if they do have some kind of database or anything like that. So, or they can just take them now fairly easily. So.
Okay. And what about location information? That's always a hot topic is,
Yes.
Where's the artifact? What if somebody submits you an artifact and it's got all kinds of, it's got sub-meter GPS coordinates attached to it? What do we do about that, and how do people see it? Well, honestly, depending on the images too and how they took them, I'm wondering also, does your process of putting them up on Open Artifact wash any sort of metadata? Because people will take photos with their phones and things like that. That might be actually I've got a 12 megapixel camera on my iPhone 7 Plus that'll take a TIFF photo. That's a really good high quality photograph. And then it's got, if I want it, all the location data attached to that photo. And I was actually part of a presentation a while back that was being presented to a company about how unsecure their data is. And they're like, oh, our website's fine, nothing's wrong. And we took images off their front page that had location data attached to them of sites and artifacts they had on their home website for their CRM firm.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that's that's part of the service. And I want to be clear, Open Artifact is a service. The images and access to those images are free and open, they're open access, hence the name Open Artifact. But the service of, dealing with the metadata, a lot of the back end stuff, dealing with the metadata, making sure that they rank properly, adding in the right, or the best terms, searchable terms and things like that. That's the part that you guys are paying for. Also size. TIFF files are very big. And so, I'm trying to, or one of the requirements is that it cannot be a TIFF file. PNG is preferred. JPEG is a little dicey, but it's fine. But TIFF files take up a lot of space. And the other thing that you guys are paying for is space. And so there are limitations on how many images each subscription can submit. And that will change as we grow, as the website and the database itself grows. But as for now, the one thing that I'm trying to explain to people, if they're questioning, why would I want to do this? I can do this myself, is something like that. A lot of people don't understand the back end when it comes to posting things on the web, whether it's for it to be seen or not to be seen. We are aware of those small details. And so this is one of the things that I would like to deal with right away. But also I want to give people the option to add whatever level of locational information they would like. Specifically, some people would like to put the site and the state. That's no problem. Or the site, city, and state. That's no problem. If you just wanted to put the city, and the state, no problem. But at the most is the state. That's it. That's how American Artifacts is organized. It's by site, sometimes city or state. And I would like to do the same thing for open. Other than that, I do not need depths. I do not need, because that's not important in this context. We're not doing site context. We are only doing, we're only using these images to identify and date other artifacts. So yeah. But this is something we will be consistently working on because we're in beta, and hopefully either by the end of the year or by 2018, we'll have a somewhat of a user-friendly uploading system where we can possibly vet a little bit better some of these issues. So, but yeah, we're working on it. We're trying to first we got to get the first 1,000 and see what happens. So, but yeah, all these things are very important, and I'm very aware of them because, like I said, I came from CRM. So, but yeah, I want to give people the option to, to put as much or as little information as they would like. But the state, just putting a state is pretty safe, because most states are very big.
As long as it's not Rhode Island or Hawaii. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But, and like I said, the focus of Open Artifact is not site context.
Yeah.
It's not. So for site-specific.
Yeah, if we're trying to identify this stuff anyway, knowing the state is good for knowing the regional context behind it anyway. So you can't just throw something up there and say, tell me all about it.
Yeah, that changes and we all see the maps, if they want to talk about the Mississippian period, but this particular artifact, and the maps are always 2 or 3 different colors just kind of blobbed over each other.
Right.
Well, that changes that issue because, not every city within the state has the same usage of terms, especially when you're dealing with prehistoric artifacts. Not every city or site uses the same time period classifications. So those blobs don't help anybody. And this will kind of pinpoint specifically where things are found, who's using what term, and such and so forth.
Okay. Well, we're just about out of time. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about any of these services that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
I think the biggest thing is, first, if you are active on the web, please get in contact with us, and use the tips and resources that we have available to improve your visibility on the web. If you're not active on the web, we have 2 platforms to get you, to get your name out there, which is really good for you as a business. That require little to no work on your part.
Right.
And that in the long term saves people a lot of time and a lot of money, because it costs a lot of money to manage websites and blogs and all this other stuff. And it also takes a lot of time out of people's day. And not everyone has volunteers or students or, a few hours a day to do all their social media or update their blog. So if either a category, we have things for you to help you have visibility on the web, which is extremely important in 2017. So. Okay,
cool. Well, thanks a lot. And I hope people get a lot out of this episode. Take a look at the links in the show notes. Listen to CRM Arc Podcast episode 117 for even more information. And we even included a bonus episode in that. So if you're a subscribing member to the APN at one of the 2 upper levels, then you can access that bonus content and hear even more. So we've got like almost 2 hours of Acacia Berry and Archaeo Analytics on the APN. What do you think about that?
Oh my.
That's a lot.
I have a lot to say.
Nice. Well, thanks a lot. And again, head over to the website. I'm sure she's willing to ask questions, active on Facebook and in some of the groups over there. So, and answering questions over there as well. The Archaeo Field Techs group, there's a good discussion about Archaeo Analytics going on that started up yesterday. And feel free to join in the conversation. Thanks a lot. And we'll be back in just a few seconds for the App of the Day segment. Thank you.
The CRM Archaeology podcast brings together a panel of cultural resource management professionals to discuss the issues that really matter to the profession. Find out about networking strategies, job hunting, graduate programs, and much more. We'll often feature interviews with college professors, CRM business owners, and experts as well. Check out the show on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at www.archaeologypodcastnetwork.com/CRM Arc Podcast. Let's get back to the show.
Okay, welcome back to the App of the Day segment, and I just want to talk about real quick. Now, this is for iOS, but there are things like this for Android too, and I think we need the same things. But we don't need. This is just kind of a fun thing, but I wanted to talk about it because there's not a lot of options out there. So what I'm talking about is in iMessages for iOS, you can now use stickers and things to enhance your messages, to stick onto messages, to just add as a picture or whatever. And of course, I was looking for archaeology stickers. And the only one I found is from Dig It Games, which I've interviewed them before, and I respect what they're doing. They have some cool stuff, but their sticker pack called Archaeology Emoji Stickers is well, it's more geared towards their games and that kind of, I guess that kind of, how should I say, artwork in the games. It's a little too, I don't know, temple-ish for me. Like there's some temples, there's some idols and things like that. It's a little too just like typical archaeology. I want to see either a CRM archaeology sticker pack or just like a field archaeology sticker pack. I don't know what those are going to be. Probably some dirty nub of a trowel. Probably a screen with a broken screen in it, a hole in it or something, some worn down shovel, and a half empty glass of beer. I don't know, whatever it's going to be, but I want to see, that's a sticker pack I want to see. So really this app of the day segment is just a plea for everyone to send me ideas. I'm willing to even sketch some of this stuff up. I think kind of fun, like crappy line drawings is exactly what we need. Not like big artistic things, just like XKCD style, line drawings of stuff that's just fun. You can download. We'd either make it 99 cents to support the APN. And then of course, if anybody supplied things, they'd get whatever they wanted. And, or just free, because screw it, because it needs to exist. It just needs to be out there. So send me, Chris at archaeologypodcastnetwork.com. Send me your thoughts and your artistic drawings, if you want, of different things that you wouldn't mind seeing as an iMessage sticker pack, and I'll do the hard work in figuring out how to actually get that on the App Store, and we'll crowdsource our own sticker pack for archaeology. What do you guys think about that? All right. Short app of the day segment, but we had a really long, good Archaeo Analytics discussion, so I wanted to just focus on that and kind of just get this out of the way because it was something I've been thinking about. I wanted to get off my chest and see if you guys could help me do it. Okay, speaking of stickers, man, that wasn't even an intentional segue. Speaking of stickers, we have new stickers for the Archaeology Podcast Network. All of our most popular shows, our most frequently posting shows, have stickers. All the shows eventually will, but I had to choose a certain subset to start with. So, because these stickers aren't cheap, they're good, high-quality vinyl stickers that you can put on your clipboard. Hell, you could put one on your trowel, on the handle. You could put one on your water bottle. You could put them on your car, wherever you want. But we've got something like 12 or 13 different show stickers. They're little 2-inch by 2-inch rounded squares, just like the show icon. There's one for the APN and one for all the most frequently posting shows. So please go check this out. We also have the CRM pack for the stickers, where you get the APN sticker. If you didn't already have it, the CRM Archaeology Podcast, this podcast, the Archaeotech Podcast, Women in Archaeology, and Profiles in CRM. And that gives you a little bit of a discount. And I believe it's $20 for all the stickers, which gives you like $3 or $4 off. So that's not too bad. So get your sticker pack, help promote the Archaeology Podcast Network, and get the word out there about the things that we do and the things that we love in a educational and ethical way, not in a History Channel way. So anyway, thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll be back next time. Thank you. That's it for another episode of the Archaeotech Podcast. Links to some of the items mentioned on the show are in the show notes for this podcast, which can be found at www.archaeologypodcastnetwork.com/Archaeotech. If you like the show and want to comment, please do. You can leave comments about this or any other episode on the website or on the iTunes page for this episode. You can also email us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com or use the contact form on the podcast webpage. If you'd like us to answer a question on a future episode, email us. Use the contact form on the website or tweet your questions with the hashtag Archaeotech or tag @ArchPodNet in your tweet. Please share the link to this show wherever you saw it. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, you can do so on iTunes or on Stitcher Radio. You can also type the name of the podcast into your favorite podcasting app and subscribe that way. Don't forget to go over to iTunes and leave a review of the show. It helps us get noticed so more people can find our podcast and benefit from the content. Also, send us show suggestions and interview suggestions. We want this to be a resource for field technicians everywhere, and we want to know what you want to know about. This show is produced by Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle, and was edited by Chris Webster.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archaeologypodcastnetwork.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.
Thanks again for listening to this episode and for supporting the Archaeology Podcast Network. If you want these shows to keep going, consider becoming a member for just $7.99 a month. That's cheaper than a venti quad eggnog latte. Go to archpodnet.com/members for more info.